You've probably seen the images from China's big military parades, right? The massive trucks, those perfectly aligned soldiers, the gleaming missiles. You see power, you see technology, maybe you even see a warning. But what if I told you that the most dangerous weapon on that parade route was completely invisible? Yeah, hidden in plain sight is a full-blown revolution in warfare. It's a system that connects every single piece of that shiny hardware into a single, thinking entity. And once you understand it, it changes, well, pretty much everything you thought you knew about military power. And look, that's not just some dramatic line. It's the reality. We are walking into a new era of conflict, an era where the side that thinks faster, not the one with the biggest guns, is the one that wins. Speed isn't just an advantage anymore. It's the only thing that matters. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look past all that impressive hardware to figure out what's really going on behind the scenes. Then we're going to introduce the core concept here, the kill web. After that, we'll dissect its anatomy, piece by piece. Then we'll explore the new rules of war it's creating, and finally, try to understand why this is such a massive challenge to the West.
All right, so let's start with what everyone sees on the news. These parades, they're designed to show off some seriously formidable stuff. We're talking hypersonic missiles, advanced stealth drones, even robotic war machines. It's really easy to get fixated on these individual pieces of shiny metal and, be impressed or even a little intimidated. But if you do that, you're kind of missing the forest for the trees.
Here's the secret. These things aren't just individual weapons anymore. They're nodes. Nodes in a massive, sprawling network. There's this unseen fabric that connects every single one of them, and it lets them talk to each other, coordinate, and act in ways that, honestly, used to be pure science fiction. And that invisible connection? That's what makes them so much more dangerous together than they could ever be apart.
So, what do we call this invisible force multiplier? Well, military analysts have a name for it, the kill web. The name itself is pretty chilling, right? But it perfectly captures this fundamental shift in military thinking. This isn't just an upgrade to old systems. It's a completely new operating system for war itself. Okay, so let's unpack that definition a little. We're talking about a system where everything is linked up. The sensors that see, the AI that thinks, and the weapons that act. And the whole point is to make decisions and strike faster than a human brain can even process what's happening. It's about taking people out of the decision loop at critical moments to gain a speed advantage that's just impossible to counter. This is probably the best way to wrap your head around it. Imagine a single, unified consciousness that's spread out across thousands of different assets. It's in space with the satellites, in the air with the jets and drones, on the sea, under the sea, and on the ground. This brain can see everything, everywhere, all at once. It processes all that information instantly and coordinates the perfect response before a human commander even knows their forces are under attack. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, it means a satellite spots a potential threat. Instantly, that data is beamed to a destroyer hundreds of miles away. That destroyer doesn't need to wait for orders from a command center. Its own AI can queue up a hypersonic missile, which launches based on targeting data that's being fed to it in real time by a high-altitude drone. That whole chain of events, from detection to destruction, it doesn't take minutes, it takes moments. Okay, so we get the concept, but what are the actual pieces of hardware, the nodes in the network, that make all this possible? Let's take a look at some of the specific components that China has been very publicly putting on display. Let's start with the pointy end of the spear. This is the YJ-21, a hypersonic anti-ship missile, often called the carrier killer, and for good reason. It cruises at 6 times the speed of sound and then dives on its target at a mind-boggling Mach 10. You can launch it from a bomber or a destroyer, but a weapon moving that fast, it's almost impossible to stop. A missile like this fundamentally rewrites the rules of naval warfare, creating this huge carrier kill zone where even the most powerful warships are no longer safe. But a hypersonic missile is just a dumb piece of metal if it doesn't know where to go. That's where the eyes of the network come in. You've got airborne command posts like the KJ-600 that act as the quarterback for the fleet. You have incredibly fast drones like the WZ-8 flying at altitudes where traditional jets can't survive. And of course, you have constellations of satellites providing that ultimate eye in the sky. All of them working together, they create this persistent 24/7, all-seeing view of the entire battlefield. There's just nowhere to hide. The next layer of this is autonomy. It's about replacing humans with intelligent swarms of machines. We're talking about small, robotic warships that patrol the surface on their own, packs of underwater drones that hunt for submarines, and AI-controlled jets flying as loyal wingmen alongside human pilots and advanced fighters.
The goal here isn't just to have a few cool robots. It's to deploy an overwhelming mass of them, creating so many problems at once that an enemy's defenses just buckle under the pressure.
Okay, let's put it all together. Picture this. An attack begins. First, swarms of cheap autonomous drones fly in. They deliberately get spotted by the enemy to map out and just saturate their air defenses. As the enemy reacts, shooting at these drones, sensor platforms like the KJ-600 and satellites are just soaking up all that data. The network's AI crunches it all in milliseconds, identifies the most important enemy assets, and assigns the best weapon to kill each one. And then finally, the hypersonic missiles launch, screaming towards targets that are being tracked every inch of the way. It's a completely seamless, brutally fast kill chain.
Now, it's really important to understand this isn't just about having better tech. This is a complete change in the entire philosophy of warfare. It's a doctrinal shift. The ability to connect information and process it is now way more important than the raw power of any single weapon. The very rules of the game are being completely rewritten right in front of us.
This chart really lays it out. Warfare used to be about one platform versus another platform. My jet against your jet, my ship against your ship. Now it's one integrated system versus another system. Decisions that used to take humans minutes of deliberation are now made by an AI in milliseconds. And victory no longer comes from just having more firepower. It comes from having better connectivity. Your entire force either fights as a single coordinated entity or gets picked apart piece by piece.
Here's another great way to think about it. It's not just a stack of different weapons piled on top of each other. It's more like a combat loom. Every single component, the hardware, the software code, the data links, they're all individual threads being woven together to create a single resilient fabric of war. And every thread is connected to every other thread, which makes the whole thing incredibly strong and able to adapt on the fly.
So what does all this mean on the world stage? Well, that parade and the system it represents, that wasn't just for a domestic audience. It was a message, a very, very clear and direct challenge to decades of technological dominance by the United States and its allies.
And that message was aimed at a very specific audience. It was for every policymaker, every general in the Pacific who has been operating under the assumption of a continued American technological edge. By showing off the pieces of the kill web, China isn't just saying, hey, we're catching up. No, it's broadcasting a sense of inevitability. The message is that the shift in the balance of power isn't coming someday in the future. It's happening right now.
Now, a skeptic might say, come on, this is just a parade, not a real war. These complex systems are going to have bugs. And you know what? They're probably right. But here is the absolutely crucial point. The system doesn't have to be perfect. Its strength is in its mass, its redundancy, and its speed. Even if 30% of the drones fail to launch or a key data link goes down, the remaining 70% might still be more than enough to completely overwhelm the defenses of an aircraft carrier. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to create so many problems so fast that your opponent simply cannot cope.
And that leads us to the final, really unsettling question. The pieces are on the board. The strategy has been written. How does the West respond to this? Do you try to build your own competing kill web, or do you have to tear up the entire playbook and invent a whole new way of fighting? Because one thing is for sure, when this web is fully operational, it isn't going to wait for permission. It's designed to act, fast, silent, and precise. China's betting its future on this system being the ultimate advantage, and we are all now living in an age where they might just be right.